Hello, I'm Kay. I'm here to help you navigate the business side of art in a way that actually makes sense. We'll decode the business lingo, unravel marketing mysteries, and pave a clear path for you to thrive both creatively and financially. So grab your favorite brush, a fresh canvas, or just a cup of coffee. Welcome to the Artist's Guide to Business. Hi, artists. Today we have a very special guest joining us on the Artist's Guide to Business just in time for tax season. So today we're going to be talking to Chika Obih. Chika Obih is a CPA. She's a money mindset educator and an online course creator dedicated to helping women entrepreneurs take control of their taxes without the overwhelm. With over 14 years of experience in income tax strategy and planning for small businesses and creatives, she's on a mission to make taxes finally make sense so her clients can keep more of their hard-earned money and build the business of their dreams. As a first-generation entrepreneur herself, Chika understands the struggles of navigating business finances without a roadmap. She has helped countless women confidently manage their taxes, set up simple money systems, and shift their money mindset without sacrificing their freedom and their sense of enjoyment and creativity. When she's not breaking down tax deductions in a way that actually clicks, you can find her hiking scenic trails, indulging in her latest reality romance TV obsession, or planning her next travel adventure. So yeah, and I like to call her the CPA with a sparkle. So this conversation is really illuminating and I hope you enjoy it. Thank you, Chika, for joining me today on the Artist's Guide to Business. I am so grateful to you for showing up today. I know you're in a busy season. And so, I just want to get right into it. And I think our listeners will get to know you and get to know what you do and everything through our conversation. So let me just start with the very first question that I have for you. Why does the way that you go about your business finances determine a lot about like your business holistically? So when someone is, interacting or how they approach their finances, what does that determine or kind of say about the rest of their business?
Yeah, this is a good one. And I understand that when it comes to money, when it comes to finances, it can make us act funny, make us act differently. And so I like to say that your business is a mirror of your mind. And it's really, really true when it comes to money, when it comes to finances. And so if you're the type that avoids your numbers, avoids your books, it could mean that you're avoiding something deeper. Maybe there's a fear of failure, a fear of success, feeling like you're not good enough. And so to me, your money really reflects your self-worth. Your money habits reflect your self-worth. And so if you do value your work, you're going to value your financial side of business as well. And that means you're going to take control of your finances. You're going to ask questions. You're going to seek help. You're not going to ignore your numbers. And I think, when it relates to things in life that maybe we're not good at, instead of avoiding, when we look at the problem, look at the situation, it helps to build our confidence, right? It helps us to get good in that area. And with finances specifically, it's going to help you to build that foundation so that you can grow your business the way that you desire. Finances, I mean, it's really pivotal no matter what type of business you're running. Artists and creatives are included. It's very, very important to really hone in on your money, understand your money. And if it is an area that maybe you don't feel as strong in, it's okay to seek help. Seek help. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely think a lot of creative people, and myself included, when it comes to looking at money, you just don't want to. It's almost like it's sort of the reality check when you're living your artistic dreams and you're being your artistic self. It feels like this sort of strange reality check, or it's like, I don't want to have to think about that, I just want to make my art. It does. And then I also sometimes, like, personally can feel almost like scared to look at my finances. And is this something you've noticed with your more creative clients? Is that sort of something that we get to experience?
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. You know how they say we have a right brain and a left brain. And so when it comes to my creative clients, right, the right brained people, I feel like I'm a left brain person, right? And so I'm just so in awe of creatives, of artists, because I don't know how to do what they do. And for them, they do it so naturally. It's like, oh my gosh, you're amazing. Like, how are you so good at photography, drawing, styling? Like, you know, and so when it comes to those things, I feel like an imposter. I feel like I'm hiding. I feel like I'm not good enough.
Hmm.
And so I can totally understand when it comes to the money side, the logical side, where here I am feeling like, wow, like it just comes easy to me. Numbers tell a story. Like I can make a story out of numbers. And so the way logic comes easy to me or numbers come easy to me, I can kind of flip the role and to understand how a creative is more, maybe there's a little fear around the numbers, the same way there's a fear around being creative for me. But just the same, I still have to be creative in certain aspects of my business. For instance, I do have a social media presence. And so I do have to show up. I still have to talk to clients, talk to people. And to me, that's the creative stuff that may not come as easy, but I put my fears aside and I just show up.
Yeah.
I just try. And so the same thing with money and with numbers for creative. I give them so much kudos when they come to me, right? Because even to just seek out an accountant sometimes could be a struggle. Maybe there's intimidation, you don't know what you don't know, but just having a conversation is a great start. They're going to ask you questions, and if you don't know the answer, we'll work it out. We'll figure it out together. So I think that, we all have our fears no matter what it is, but first step is to acknowledge and to just show up, to just,
Yeah.
don't avoid it. Just try.
Yeah. And I really love, like, the idea of, when I teach people art or teach them business, I've always been very focused on that idea that we're not good at the things that we're beginners at. If it's something that's outside your realm, if it's something you haven't really approached before, you're not going to be very, like, expert level at it in the very beginning. And with art, I'll teach people that this is part of letting yourself kind of be creative and just trust the process and go for it. But with money and with looking at your business finances, it's almost about letting yourself be in control or have a little bit of empowerment around what's happening in your financial well-being, right? Is there
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's the way you described that just made that so clear to me. How can artists start to shift their relationship with business finances so that they can feel more empowered other than overwhelmed? Is there things that they can do, at home or in their weekly, monthly business practices that will start to kind of breach that relationship and help them to feel empowered?
Yeah, yeah, no, this is a good question. Um, and just thinking about the creative or the artist that, let's just say that they might be afraid of looking at their numbers. They avoid their numbers. They don't even know how much came in last month, how much went out last month. So in talking to that person, the first thing I would say is, what if you looking at your numbers, or you knowing your numbers, was a direct correlation to increasing your revenue, increasing your profits?
Hmm.
Just start there, right? Simply by looking at your numbers, your revenue, your income is going up. So by knowing that, getting that in your head, it's like, okay, I want that, right? I want more money. So, okay, let me just sit down and open up my bank account, right? My business bank account. Let me just look. Look at what came in, look at what came out over the last 30 days. And I would just say, maybe that's the first step. It's just to see the numbers. Even if you can't even make sense of it, just look. And then maybe after you've looked at the first 30 days, maybe you see, okay, 5K came in, 7K went out. Okay, that's 2000 net went out. Okay, let me look at the month before. And then you see that pattern, right? And something about, dang, I thought I did really well last month, but I was in a net loss of 2K.
Hmm.
Okay. So this month it's looking like, so let's say it's looking like the same amount coming in, 5K. Okay. But we're only in the middle of the month. So, your juices start to flow. Creativity, like,
Yeah.
what can I do to potentially get one more sale? That person reached out to me, and they were interested in my work, but they didn't contact me. Let me follow up with that person. You know what I mean? Like, it gives us the confidence. It gives us the motivation to push through, to try, to reach out. You know what I mean? It becomes a game almost. And it's fun. That game is fun. So I would say, perhaps instead of like just avoiding, just take a look. And not that you're taking a look to become a pro, to become an expert. No, you just want to see the patterns. I'm just looking to see the patterns. What came in last month, what went out? How is it looking this month? What is coming in, what is going out? Okay, what can I do between now and the end of the month to increase my income by 1,000, or 5,000, whatever, and then make a game out of it. And I promise that once you get into the groove of that, you'll start to see, like, I met that goal. Let me increase the next goal. And you'll really just have this natural inclination to want to learn and to be better, and to be consistent with looking at your numbers. So I think that's a fun
Yeah.
approach to it.
I like the approach that you just described. It starts by just looking at the numbers, allowing yourself to look at them, keep them neutral. One thing I love, though, that you explained here is that sort of gamification, right? Like the sort of like, these numbers are not a reflection on if I'm good or if I'm bad or, any of that. And I'm not saying that everybody has these deep kind of emotional experiences when they look at their numbers, but they might. Anyway, so being able to almost turn it into a game that then motivates you to take productive actions in your business is really cool. And what you described, like maybe you do a monthly, you check in at the end of the month and then halfway through the next month. Maybe those are kind of your two times. Is there any additional thought on how often you might want to check in on those?
Yeah, I would say at the least monthly, but ideally, try to get towards weekly,
Oh, wow.
because
Okay.
yeah, ideally. And once you start making it a habit, a weekly habit, you'll start to see that it really just takes like 5, 10 minutes. Like, it's
Okay.
it's it's not like this whole chore that's gonna take half a day. You know what I mean? And I think maybe people have that in their head, that, it's gonna take all my time. I'll do it later. I'll do it next time. But no, in the beginning, if you've been avoiding for months or years, however long, okay, expect it to perhaps take a little bit longer in the beginning. But once you get into that groove, once it becomes a habit, again, whether it's monthly, whether it's weekly, it's really just about 10 minutes each time. And again, you'll start to see the fun of it because you'll see, like, okay, I made this much last week. Okay, I'm really going to push through to get these sales that are in process,
Yeah, and that's
yeah.
that's perfect. I wonder too if yeah, that just kind of normalizes it and gets people more comfortable with just being aware of that. Oh, I was going to say also, I think that once you start paying attention to your numbers, sometimes they'll surprise you a little bit where you're like, oh, I actually am making money. It's like, oh, that could be a nice surprise. Because if you're sort of just, artists and creatives largely are of there's that mythology around us, right? That we have to be starving to be successful, or that if we're artists, we shouldn't be earning money. And it creates this disconnect that is not just about what comes in, but it's about kind of our overall perception of our businesses and what we're doing. I remember the first time I was actually making money in my business, and I remember being like, holy cow, I can't believe this is happening. I'm actually like averaging $5,000 a month at this point. And it was almost like I totally didn't know until I really sat down and saw all those numbers. And I will admit this at the end of the year, or I should say at tax time the
Next
next year.
time. Yep.
I don't do
Yep.
that anymore, but I did it back then. But actually, that's a perfect segue into our next topic. As a CPA, as someone who works with creatives, tell me this, Chika, why do creative entrepreneurs often put taxes on the back burner until it's too late?
Yeah. I mean, some of what we've already kind of talked about, like it's the fear of not knowing, right? It's the fear of doing something wrong. It's maybe money and numbers and math wasn't our favorite topic growing up in school, right? We were the artists. And so now that we're business owners or entrepreneurs, we got to look at our numbers, right? Finances become very, very, very important in business. But you have it in your mind that money is icky, asking for too much. Oh, it's not what we do as artists. So it's definitely a mindset thing. It's a mindset thing. It could be a stigma within the industry as well. And I would just suggest that knowing knowing your talents, right? You've decided to become an artist, you've decided to become a business owner, an entrepreneur, to sell your artistry. You're amazing. And just always remember that to continue to be amazing, it's not just one area. You got to open your perspective, your mindset into the other areas that matter, especially because it is going to determine your longevity, your success. And so the beautiful thing is you don't have to do it alone, right? If you're the type of person that tends to work in groups, tends to see the value in hiring help, do that around your numbers as well, hiring an accountant or even utilizing apps. And a lot of times these apps will have professionals behind the scenes so that you can talk to someone within the app, right? So you're never alone. You never have to do it alone. So that's what I would say. Because again, creativity isn't my strong suit, but I don't allow that to keep me down. I don't use that as an excuse. It's like, okay, let me buy this coaching program, or let me hire this copywriter. You know what I mean? Like, I find a way that works. And so we can all do that no matter what the topic is.
So I will tell you this. I was not expecting a conversation about accounting and taxes and money to turn into this kind of reflection on finding community and creating, an experience where you're not isolated or alone in your business. And I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs, but also especially artists who do feel isolated in their efforts, especially if they live in a smaller town or anything like that. So I'm almost really cluing in here to this is actually somewhat inspirational about finding people to support you and help your journey, and then also can do that back, you know. So I think that's pretty cool and somewhat unexpected, so I really appreciate that message from you. I want to know too, you know, as we're coming up on the taxes, as we're talking about maybe hiring a CPA or an accountant to help us with our taxes, can you go over some of maybe the most commonly overlooked deductions that are specific to business owners, but also specific to artists? Like, what kind of things should people be thinking about that, hey, you can write this off on your taxes? Also, Chika, maybe right before you get into it, if you could just tell people what it means to write things off on their taxes. My audience ranges from people who've been in business for years to people who are just starting. So even a brief explanation of what that means might be helpful.
Oh yeah, for sure, for
Thank
sure.
you.
Yeah, so to write things off is to uh deduct, is that, subtract, is that another word?
I
So
like it.
um against the income that you've made, the revenue that you've made, right? So if let's just use small, you've made $1,000 by selling art, but with selling that $1,000 piece of art, you paid $200 on paintings and supplies and materials. And so the write off or the deduction is the $200. You are deducting what you spent against the income that you made, right? So essentially that's what that is. You're deducting against the money that you made. And so with that said, deductions and write-offs is the biggest question that I usually get, right? Because business owners, we want to pay the smallest amount of taxes to the IRS. Chika, help me. How do I save money on taxes, right? How can I increase my deductions? And
Absolutely.
so,
I mean,
yes.
I will say, like, that is something that I'm always curious about because when you start paying self-employment tax, it's a solid chunk of change, and you're working your butt off to make that money, you know? So it's
It adds up. It adds up. And so I will say some of the most overlooked deductions, especially creatives, because I think, creatives, we tend to start off in our homes, right? And so if you are doing business inside your home, then the home office deduction is available to you, right? Because that is your business space. That you have a space in your home where you do business. And so
I mean, that
with that,
seems really important. Like a studio, so it's essentially your studio, but you can call it your home office or your home business space.
exactly. And of course, there's rules to it, right? For instance, if you pay 2,000 a month in rent, no, you cannot deduct the full 2,000 as a home office expense. There's specifications as to uh how big is the studio space or the office space versus the overall space of your home,
So
right?
I
So,
have to tell you, this is so
yes.
funny because I do know about this rule.
Okay,
And
okay.
every year, to my husband's, you know, chagrin, the square footage that my studio takes up slowly increases. Isn't that funny? Like the first year it was one room and then it slowly became two rooms. And I'm
Yeah.
like, that's, you know, they're not going to believe me if I also tell them it's the third, like, room. So we'll just go with those two rooms.
3 rooms out of 3. Yeah, yeah, we believe it. But
Yep.
no, but oftentimes, and I see this all the time, right? I'll get a new client. Generally, they are gonna be a creative, and I'm looking at their prior year tax return, and I don't see that they've taken the home office deduction. So, of course, we correct that. We take it in the year in which, they become a client, and already I'm seeing that we're reducing their taxable income by like $4,000.
Oh,
You know what
wow.
I mean? So it adds up. And imagine all the years prior that they didn't take the deduction, and so
Wow.
To me, honestly, the home office deduction is one of the biggest ones. And I actually talk about that deduction specifically in a free checklist that I offer. And we can get into that later. But that's probably one of the most asked about deduction because
That's
one,
incredible. Yeah.
oftentimes people might know about it, but they don't take it because they say, oh, I hear that the IRS audits the home office deduction
Okay.
heavily, right? And yes, it's one of the heavily audited deductions. It's true. However, if you have a home office and you can substantiate the space, the square footage, then take the deduction because
Mhm.
it's accurate. And should you ever get audited by the IRS, all it is they're going to be asking you questions. And again, you can substantiate the space. And so you turn in the answers
Mm.
and then boom, they approve it. Your deductions are intact. So don't ever be afraid of taking a position on a tax return if it's accurate,
I
you
love
know?
that. Yeah, like if
Right.
it's accurate and honest. I did early on too. I had an accountant that told me the mileage I had recorded was going to alarm them and was going to be a problem. And so she actually reduced the amount of mileage that I claimed, which I live in a very big state, and to get to job sites I was working on required driving a lot. And every single contractor that was driving up there and everyone who was doing that was all, it made perfect sense. But anyway, so that's my experience there. And I do remember thinking, like, these are honest numbers and I could prove it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, so it's kind of interesting.
That is very interesting. And it's so, it brings me back because yeah, as the accountant, right? If this was us and I see you saying that, okay, you drove a number of miles, excuse me, and let's say it is a lot. I'm not gonna automatically say, okay, that's too much. Let's reduce it.
Hmm.
No, I'm gonna ask you questions. Okay, you drove $10,000 in business miles, or excuse me, 10,000 miles of in business? Is that accurate? Like, tell me more about that. And then you would, of course, tell me about how, yeah, like every drive was at least 50 miles one way, 50 miles coming back. And I did that about 1,000 miles a month. And, so it's just asking questions.
I love
And
that.
once I would have heard that from you, it would have been like, oh, okay, it's accurate, it's correct. She can claim it. But just because a number is big or out of the ordinary, that alone is not enough if it's accurate.
Mhm.
If the tax law can support, the position that we're taking. So you want an accountant that's curious and that asks questions.
Oh, that's really good to know. You know, so I definitely have been a person who does things on my own a lot. But accounting and an accountant was one of the first things that I went for when I had some extra revenue to spend on professional things. Um, would you mind just telling us a little bit what is, how, first of all, how do you know when it's time to get professional help versus managing it yourself? And then, yeah, honestly, in our state, it's like finding a CPA who's available has been, it's a challenge. But what do you kind of look for, or what are some things to pay attention to when you are looking for this help?
Yeah, no, that is a great question. When is it time to hire an accountant, a CPA, a tax professional? Um, well, for one, if you're stressing about your taxes, your finances, that could be a sign, right? I mean, stress alone is not the only requirement, but I would say that if another requirement, or not a requirement, but like another sign that it might be time to hire a tax professional is, for one, you're a business owner. You used to be W 2, but now you're a business owner. You're full time and you're making money. You know what I mean? I say that hiring a tax professional is an investment. It's
Yeah.
not an expense. And
No.
so I understand, especially if you're new in business, you tend to want to hold on to your money.
Yeah.
Everything is considered expensive, but no, look at a tax professional as an investment, an investment in your future business success, an
Mhm.
investment in your peace of mind, your sanity. If you've been doing it yourself, you're always doing it late, meaning you probably are always paying penalties because it's always late. You're missing deadlines, right? All those things add up. Remember earlier I mentioned how one client was missing $4,000 a year in tax
Yes.
deductions. The tax professional is not going to be 4,000, right? So you're thinking, oh, I'm let's just say the tax professional was 1,000, but if the $1,000 saves you an extra 3,000, 5,000, 10,000, it's worth it. And
Mhm.
9 times out of 10, it often does give you a return on your investment by hiring a tax professional. So, yeah.
That's a really great way to look at it. Once you get serious about your business and once you see income coming in, you know, hiring people to help you manage these kind of issues, yeah, it's a total what you said, it's an investment that can earn you more money in the long run. Also, even just the peace of mind, I feel like there were a few years there where I was submitting my husband and my taxes alone or on my own, and I was using you know, I don't know what, but going through it and I was like, I think I got this right, but the peace of mind was definitely not the same level as when my accountant calls us up and says, "Hey, come sign this and check out these papers," and then I'm like, yes, everything is in order. Like, I
Right.
know they got it all done and it's done well. And if something goes weird, I have someone to help me and back me up so,
Exactly.
yeah, I
And
agree.
all those things to me are what you just said is priceless. And let's talk about your time, like how it freed you up. How long were you taking when you were doing it yourself versus all the free time you created to focus on your craft once you hired the tax pro to do it for you? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
oftentimes, and I get it again, it's a mindset thing, but oftentimes you don't think about the time savings, the stress, the mental health, the sanity, shoot, how we treat our clients. What if your creativity level goes up a ton because you're not over here having to deal with these numbers that's pissing you off? You know what I mean? So
Yeah, exactly.
we have to think beyond just, oh, it's $1,000. Like, what else are you getting out of it? It's more than money.
Yeah, absolutely. Is $1,000 kind of a standard rate? What would people who have never engaged this kind of profession, like, what could they be sort of expecting?
Honestly, it ranges. Really, 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 truly depends. One thing, it can be, depending on the state that you're living in,
Let's
depending
put
on
it
who
this
you,
way, since
yeah,
it's so varied,
yeah, it's very varied.
if you're listening to this and you're considering it, just call someone who is local to you or someone you're interested in working with and find out real numbers. I think my accountant this year, it cost us like $300 or something like that.
Okay.
And then another year though it was 700 with someone else. So I think there's and that was a
It
complicated
varies.
year to be fair too. But
Okay.
I think it's worth just kind of following in and checking up and that's part of the journey, right? It's like, okay.
It really is. And I will say that, I'm in California, so
Yeah.
we pay for where we live, so
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, but you can always, as you mentioned, you can always call up and get a free consult and they can give you a range. So before you even have
Perfect.
to pay anything, you can find out how much it might cost before you say yes. So
Oh, wow. So Chika, this has all been really mindset, beautiful. Here's what I want to do. So you mentioned that you have the checklist to help first time business owners. Is that right? For early business or no, just to help anyone find deductions in their taxes. Is that right? Tell me a little bit about this checklist resource you have.
Yeah. So in my work, I do focus on business owners that are in their first 12 months of business. However, this checklist and I'm seeing is that it's honestly for anyone who may not be certain if they're taking all the deductions that are available to them, you know. And so what this checklist is the ultimate tax deduction checklist, and it offers 7 write-offs that every small business owner should claim. And so again, whether you're in your first 12 months, whether you're in your first 5 years, oftentimes of these 7, you'll see that either maybe you were not even taking the deduction, or you probably wasn't taking it the correct way, the home office deduction, for instance. So I think that everybody can learn something by uh, downloading that free checklist. And I also offer a bonus with that checklist where I have a 7 video series where you'll get 7 videos where I go deep into each of the 7 deductions. I
Wow.
provide examples. Yeah, so whether you're a visual learner where you just want to read it, or you need to hear it out, hear me break it down, you get it all and it's 100% free.
Wow. That sounds like an incredible resource. So we will definitely be linking to that in the show notes and anywhere we talk about this episode. I think too, the other thing about this is even if you are going to hire a CPA or get some help with all of this outside of yourself, educational tools like this, like what you just talked about, those deep dives, they're so invaluable to just watch through them and make sure you understand what's going on so that when you do start hiring help or you do start getting outside help, there's no other word, you really have some context, right? You're not just kind of like it's not empowering what we were talking about earlier to just like be like, I don't want to look at this at all. Hand it off, you know? That's not the kind of empowerment. It's more, I want to understand this and I want to know and ground myself in the reality of it and kind of get a picture of it. And then I want to hand it off to an expert like
Yes.
Chika who can make magic happen with my numbers. But you don't want to just kind of say, that's something I want nothing to know about. You want to know about it too, right?
Exactly. In fact, and those are who makes the best clients. It's the ones who trust their accountant to handle the numbers, making sure everything is done correctly, making sure that they can communicate what's going on to the client. They're asking the client questions so that they're filing the returns, they're doing everything accurately. There's no guessing. And if something is a mystery, boom, we're able to have conversations. But the types of clients that they don't want to know anything, they just hand everything off and they don't even look at the numbers before it's time to file it, that's not good either, right? And so to be a successful business owner, no matter what your love of numbers is, you have to have some type of comfort in looking at your numbers. And so whether you can do that by yourself or you need to hold your accountant's hand and they're there for you, it's fine. But whatever works for you, you got to look at your numbers.
I love it. I think this has been a really valuable conversation. And I always say this, I think creativity in people comes out in all sorts of different ways. And clearly, like your creative juices and passion, like the way you look when you talk about this stuff, you can tell it's just like lighting you up.
Passionate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I love that so much. Like
Yeah.
I personally think numbers and all of that, it's just so creative too because you're making connections and you're seeing how things fit together and you can see it in the way you're talking about it. So I love that.
Yeah.
Is there anything we missed before we move to the lightning questions round?
Yeah. So something you mentioned earlier about having a community around numbers. And so that's actually what I'm doing these days. You know, I've been a CPA since 2011. I've had my own business where I was doing tax filings, tax planning, one on one work with business owners and individuals. And I found that oftentimes the people that were neglected were women that were in their first year of business. And the reason for that is because they would often have 50 million questions, but did not have the money to invest in a CPA. So unfortunately, I wasn't really able to help them one on one, just the way my services were. But now I'm getting into online courses, workshops, speaking engagements, and I can fully focus my attention on working with women, working with creatives that are just starting off in entrepreneurship. And oftentimes, their first generation in their family to become entrepreneurs. And so I love that this is now my focus. The checklist is the best way to kind of get into my world because you'll then be on my email list. So you'll see all the workshops, the courses, you'll be the first to know. So if this is sounds interesting, if it sounds like Chika, I need this, just get my checklist to get on my email list and I've got you.
I love it. Yeah, definitely. I think that that is an amazing opportunity, and I'm so glad that you saw a need and you're filling it, for folks who didn't have that access before. So thank you for doing that. And thank you for sharing all your expertise and your bright joy today. Okay, so real fast lightning round. Tell me, first of all, what is the last or your favorite piece of art? So it can be one
uh,
that you just bought or something you bought, or maybe someone gifted it to you. What's a piece of art in your life that you are like, oh, I love this piece of art? It can be anything. There
it
is
could
no,
be
and I
anything.
also want to be clear, in the Artist's Guide to Business, crafts are art. So handmade mugs, things like that, all of that, those are all art. None of them are.
Okay. Okay. The last piece of art that I've last purchased that I really, really loved was it was these earrings, gold earrings that looked like the wings of an angel.
Ooh.
It was really unique because it wasn't like literal wings, but you can just tell like, oh, like was it broken off like two pieces for each?
Oh, they sound amazing.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love
yeah.
jewelry like that because it's wearable art?
Yes, and I will say I'm a minimalist, and so usually my clothes are basic, but it's usually a piece of jewelry, a necklace that is unique, that is a conversation starter. So I really like, yeah, just one unique
Perfect.
piece, and I'm perfect. Yeah, and I'm good.
Okay. Next question. What's a quote or a mantra that guides your life? So that's a heavy question, heavy hitter.
It
I'm like,
is,
just give it to me. But,
yeah.
if you could just share a quote that you're excited about or that you think is great. And if nothing comes to mind, that's okay. You let me know.
You know what? Something that it comes up, it has been coming up pretty often is remembering to tell myself that everyone has free will.
Hmm.
And I usually have to say that, remind myself of that when I find myself doing too much. For
Mm,
instance, let's say someone said that they would call you at a certain time and they don't. In fact, you haven't heard from them for days. And in the past, I would be the one to want to follow up or to get mad, to get annoyed, to get frustrated. But no, everyone has free will. They
mm,
said they would call, they said they would follow up, and they didn't. It's not up to me to babysit, to run after them, to remind them. We're all adults, especially adults. We all have free will. We're not kids. And so a person's decision, it speaks loud and clear. Their actions speak loud
yeah.
and clear. So I don't have to fill in the gaps. We all have free will. We all do what we want to do. And so
You
that
know,
has made my life so much easier, like peace of
absolutely.
mind.
I
Yeah.
love that. It's like a clear boundary. It's just like it's a really clear boundary. Hey, you know what? That's what they did.
you remind yourself and you just keep on pushing. You don't have to keep it in your head. No, like,
Yeah.
okay, let me go this way.
Absolutely. I realize that is much bigger and deeper than just what we're, just talking about business. But there's something about that that resonates too for people in business so much because so many artists, when they start selling, they're like, should I follow up? How do I talk about my art? How do I ask them to pay for it? Like, there's all these questions with this sort of idea that what we do somehow changes the behavior or controls our clients. And if we do it correctly, they'll buy it. But if we do it incorrectly, they won't buy it. But that's not the truth. You just have to present the options, and help them to see it. And to, you do obviously build up sales. But at the end of the day, they get to make their choice. And that frees you up to provide that option, just to, I don't know. That's what I always think about too with that. I
Yeah.
love that
No,
though. You're
I
so
like that.
right. Have you yeah, we'll chat about this later, but, like, I love that so much what you just said. Okay, and then the very last thing, what is your favorite way to disconnect from work?
Yeah. One of the easiest and free way that I love is I hop in a car. There's this beautiful park not too far from me where there's like a 3 mile, what's this called? Radius?
Yeah, or I don't know, yeah.
Circumference, I think that's the word. Lake. There's a lake or
Oh,
right in the middle of this park that has beautiful nature around the walkway, like a 3 mile walkway. And I'll just drive over there, park, and just walk. I just walk, and all you hear are the birds. There's ducks and little baby ducks, and they're just doing their thing in the water, and the trees are just, you know, it's nature, and this place is like 5 minutes from me. And so usually, like if I'm having like a really stressful day, I've had bad, hard conversations, I'll just hop in the car, go to that park, and it literally just melts the stress. And I'm like, wait, what was I worried about earlier? Like it just melts, and I really just get answers. Like it's magical. It's just really magical. So just being in nature
Yeah,
is just the best way for me to like unplug from work.
absolutely. Thank you. I mean, I wanna go for a walk now and see some ducks. So Chika, I just wanted to say again, thank you so much for your time and sharing your expertise today. Everyone who's listening, she made time to talk to us during one of the busiest seasons in a CPA's life. So I'm so grateful to her to do that. And again, Chika, we'll link so that's the best way. We will put a link to sign up for that checklist in our show notes on the website, everything like that. Is there any social media you'd like them to check out or anything like that?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram as well as YouTube. I do videos where I'm talking to creatives and women entrepreneurs. And so the handle is the same for both at Chika Obih CPA. So just one word for YouTube and for Instagram, Chika
Perfect.
Obih
And we'll link
CPA.
to that too so everybody has an easy access.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.